Okay, students, in this topic, we're going to move towards further phylum that is called Chordata. The reason why I'm showing here is because we already completed all these phylums all the way up until Echinodermata, and also we completed a phylum called Hemichordata. So notice, like in the beginning of our this chapter, we already know that there is a hierarchical classification: kingdom, phylum or division, and then comes class, order, family, genus, and then comes species, right? So you try to understand what we are discussing here, that so far whatever till echinodermata or hemichordata, whatever we discussed, uh, will come under phylum only. But in chordata, the content that has been given in our textbook have subphylums also. There are three subphylums. One is called Urochordata, Cephalochordata, and Vertebrata. These two, however, are not need not to be studied in depth, but we need to study all the content that are related to subphylum Vertebrata. Now, looking at this, you can see the phylum Chordata have subphylums Urochordata, Cephalochordata can be called as protochordates or protochordata you can call. So don't get confusion. These two, that means Urochordata or Tunicata and Cephalochordata together can be termed as protochordata. Let's see these characteristics features which are coming under subphylums. And these urochordates are exclusively marine in nature, and the notochord, which I've already said to you, these are the ones which are present only in larval tail, whereas cephalochordates, the notochord extend all the way from head to tail of the body, and it is persistent, that is present all through the life of that organism. So try to understand the difference between urochordata and cephalochordata. In urochordata, notochord, which I already said, chordata is mainly because of the presence of a string-like structure called notochord. This notochord is only present in larval tail, especially in urochordata, whereas in cephalochordata, it is present all the way from head to tail in these organisms throughout their life. And here are the examples: Accidia, Salpa, Doliolum are all examples of urochordata, whereas Branchiostoma, which can be called as Amphioxus or Lancelet, are all the examples of cephalochordata. Okay, fine. Now, what are chordates exactly? Uh, what are the characteristic features of chordates? It is clearly visible in our textbook under the table 4.1. The chordates have these specific characteristics. Chordata is a phylum, and they have these subphylums. Chordates have a notochord, and they do have a central nervous system which is dorsal, that means back of the body, which is hollow, empty, and single. So you can see right over here, suppose this is not an organism, but it is a graphical representation of an organism having all these characteristics. Look at this, the notochord is present and even covered by nerve cord. So that means they have these notochord eventually develop into a spinal cord in our body. Nerve cord becomes a vertebral column. Okay, so how can you say the lower organisms, why they're called non-chordates? The reason why they don't show these characteristics of having notochord and nerve cord. Okay, if you hold these any one of the organism and you can squash them in your hand, because they don't have the vertebral column, which you cannot feel it also. Fine. So they have nerve cord, chordates have nerve cord and notochord, persistent. It can be persistent in cephalochordate, it can be present only in larval tail under subphylum. And they have these pharynx, have a gill slits. Observe any fish. You see they have gills and they have slits. Slit means division, like you can see right over here. Especially it is clearly found in fishes. Fishes come under chordates only. Heart is ventral. That means it is present in the front part of the body. And if they may have post-anal part, that is called tail is present. Sometimes we can see fishes, amphibians, reptiles especially, they have a post-anal part called tail. Okay, fine. And you can see the difference between chordates and non-chordates. They're all completely opposite. They don't have notochord. If the central nervous system is present, that is solid, and they are double in nature, and it is present on the front part of the body, especially these organisms like non-chordates. They don't have gill slits. Heart is dorsal, backside, like you can see in echinodermata. They don't have tail also. Fine. So these are some of the characteristic features of chordates, and we discussed about subphylums of under chordates, and you can see the one which we going to discuss more is vertebrata. Now let's see some of the characteristics of vertebrata. These members, they belong to subphylum vertebrata, and they have notochord during the embryonal period. Eventually this notochord develop into a spinal cord when they develop into adult one. The notochord is replaced by this cartilaginous bony vertebral column. Okay. Thus, this is a very important statement. All the vertebrates are chordates. Any organisms that belong to vertebrates or come under vertebrates are all chordates only. But not all chordates are not vertebrates. Sorry, all chordates are not vertebrates. See, these are also coming under chordates only, even urochordata and cephalochordata, but they are not vertebrates. No? The reason why they are not vertebrates, because the last statement tells that these subphylums, urochordata, cephalochordata, even though they belong to chordates, but they lack the vertebral column. That you have to remember. That's why the last statement says that all chordates are not vertebrates, because they don't have vertebral column. But in the first statement, vertebrates, all vertebrates can be under chordates because they obey the characteristic feature of having a notochord. Okay, now let's continue the vertebrates characteristics. Besides the basic chordate characters, vertebrates have ventral muscular heart. Either it can be 2-chambered or 3-chambered or 4-chambered. They have kidneys for excretion. Just compare ourselves. We all belong to subphylum vertebrates. We all have these characteristic features. Excretion and osmoregulation. Osmoregulation means maintenance of fluid balance in the body. And we have paired appendages, means we have like a pair of hands, a pair of legs, or it can be fin if it is for fish, and limbs for higher organisms like us. Let's divide the vertebrates into classes. See, vertebrates like subphylum divide into two further divisions, like agnatha, that means they don't have jaw, have a class called cyclostomata, and there is other division called gnathostomata. Agnatha, gnathostomata. That means they have a jaw, like the way we have na jaw, the lower jaw. We all belong to the gnathostomata. Okay. Now this gnathostomata further divided into subclasses, like fishes. They have fins, and they have two further divisions like chondrichthyes, osteichthyes, that we'll see later. And the subclass have tetrapods, that means have four, tetra means four, legs, limbs. And under that you can see amphibians, like frogs have four legs, limbs. Reptiles do have four limbs. Birds have four. Two of them are legs and two of them are modified into wings. And obviously mammals have four limbs, two legs and two hands. So try to keep a note on what is subphylum, what is subclass. So during the higher hierarchical classification, even each phylum have subphylums also, and even each class do have subclasses, or you can call superclasses also.